James Carter, a successful black entrepreneur and owner of a prestigious luxury store chain, decided to conduct an undercover visit to one of his flagship locations. Dressed casually in dark jeans, sneakers, and a plain black jacket, James blended seamlessly with the bustling crowds of New York City's Fifth Avenue. The store, a sleek and elegant building with exquisite luxe embossed in gold above the entrance, was a shining symbol of sophistication. James designed the space to be both luxurious and welcoming, a place where high-end fashion met comfort. However, today's visit wasn't about admiring the space or the collections. He wanted to see how customers were treated when the staff didn't know who he was. This wasn't his first undercover visit, but it was special this branch was in his hometown, a location he was particularly proud of. As James entered the store, a soft chime announced his arrival. Inside, polished marble floors, plush velvet seating, and carefully curated displays showcased the store's high-end merchandise. The air was filled with the scent of expensive cologne and soft jazz music. Despite the inviting ambiance, James felt like an outsider. His casual attire stood in stark contrast to the designer clothing often worn by the store's clientele. This was intentional. He wanted to ensure his staff treated every customer with dignity, regardless of appearance. Taking a deep breath, he began to explore, ready to observe the store's culture firsthand. This visit, he knew, might reveal much more than just the quality of customer service. It might expose the values his brand truly stood for. As James Carter wandered through the luxury store, he stopped at a display of exquisite designer watches. Each piece reflected a blend of artistry and craftsmanship, and James admired the fine details, knowing he had personally selected many of them. While studying one particularly striking silver watch with a leather strap, James caught the gaze of a man across the room. Richard Cole, the franchise owner of this store. Richard, a middle-aged man with thinning gray hair and a tailored suit that strained slightly around his midsection, was speaking to another customer. His demeanor seemed professional, his tone courteous as he flashed a rehearsed smile. However, when his eyes landed on James, the smile faded, replaced by a subtle but unmistakable frown. James acted as though he hadn't noticed and asked politely, "Excuse me, could you tell me more about this watch?" Richard approached slowly, his eyes scanning James from head to toe. The baseball cap, dark jeans, and sneakers clearly didn't match the image of the affluent clientele Richard was accustomed to serving. His voice, when he finally responded, was clipped and perfunctory. "That's one of our limited edition models, very exclusive. It might not be what you're looking for." James kept his tone light, though irritation simmered beneath his calm demeanor. "Oh, why is that?" Richard hesitated, then added, "It's a high-end piece, quite expensive. Maybe you'd be more interested in something more accessible." His words carried an air of condescension that couldn't be mistaken. Keeping his composure, James probed further. "I like high-end pieces. What makes this one special?" Richard sighed, his reluctance to engage evident. "It's crafted by one of the finest Swiss watchmakers, using top-tier materials. The craftsmanship is unparalleled, and it's a collector's item, limited to a very small number of pieces worldwide." James nodded thoughtfully, still holding the watch. "Sounds impressive. How much does it cost?" There was a pause as Richard seemed to weigh whether to answer. Finally, he said, "It's priced at $125,000, his tone laced with skepticism. Then, almost as an afterthought, he added, "But as I said, we have other options that might be more in line with your budget." James placed the watch back into the display case with deliberate care, maintaining his polite demeanor despite the frustration bubbling inside him. "And if I wanted to buy this one?" Richard's expression hardened, and his annoyance became more pronounced. "Well," he said, "I'd need to see proof of payment first. We don't let just anyone walk out with our best pieces." James paused, meeting Richard's gaze directly. "I see. So, it's store policy to question a customer's ability to pay before making a sale? Richard straightened defensively. It's about maintaining the integrity of our brand. We can't let just anyone handle our merchandise. James nodded slightly. I understand, he replied calmly, though inside he had seen enough. This interaction was not just about bias. It was about values and the actions that contradicted what his brand claimed to stand for. As James Carter left the display case of designer watches, he decided to explore the store further, determined to gain deeper insights into how customers were treated. His earlier encounter with Richard Cole, the store's franchise owner, had left him disappointed but curious. James wanted to see if Richard's dismissive attitude was a one-time occurrence or part of a larger issue in how the store operated. James wandered into the clothing section, stopping at a display of designer coats. One in particular caught his eye. A sleek, dark coat crafted from Italian wool, its elegant cut perfect for the fall season. Running his fingers over the fine fabric, he picked it up and held it in front of himself, appreciating its craftsmanship. "Excuse me," James called out to Richard, who was still lingering near the counter, scrolling through his phone. Richard glanced up, his expression immediately souring when he recognized James. Putting away his phone, Richard approached with the same rehearsed smile that now seemed forced. "Yes, how can I help you?" he asked, his tone flat. "I was admiring this coat," James said, keeping his voice calm and polite. "Could you tell me more about it?" Richard hesitated for a moment, then responded. "That's one of our premium items," he said, his tone clipped. "It's handcrafted from Italian wool, part of our latest collection, very exclusive." "It's beautiful," James remarked, holding the coat up to get a better look. "How much does it cost?" Richard's smile tightened. "It's priced at $2,600, he replied, enunciating each word as if explaining to someone unfamiliar with such high-end merchandise. "These are meant for our high-end customers. We don't usually keep this kind of item out for just anyone to touch." James raised an eyebrow, his patience wearing thin. "I see," he said evenly. "So, you keep some items out of reach of your regular customers." Richard's expression hardened, the polite facade slipping slightly. "Our regular customers know what they can afford and what they can't," he said curtly. "We cater to a specific clientele, people who appreciate quality and have the means to purchase it." James placed the coat back on its hanger carefully, taking his time. The frustration he felt was rising again, but he forced himself to remain composed. "I appreciate quality," he said, his tone measured. "And I think I might be interested in this coat." Richard's eyes narrowed, a mix of irritation and disbelief flashing across his face. He took a step closer, lowering his voice, as if to make the conversation more private. "Look," he said, a hint of condescension creeping into his tone. "I don't mean to offend, but perhaps you should look at some of our more affordable options. There's no point wasting time on items that are out of your range." James met Richard's gaze, his voice firm but controlled. "You don't know what my range is," he replied. "Assuming you do based solely on how I look is not good business practice." Richard straightened defensively, his arms crossing over his chest. "We have an image to maintain," he said slowly, as though speaking to someone who didn't understand the rules. "We can't just have anyone come in and handle our most valuable items. It's about preserving the brand." James nodded slightly, his expression calm but his eyes sharp. "Preserving the brand?" he echoed. "By judging people based on their appearance? That's not how you build loyalty or respect." Richard's posture stiffened further, his face a mix of annoyance and smugness. "Our customers appreciate exclusivity," he said, his tone bordering on condescending. "They don't want to see just anyone in here touching everything. It's about the experience, the environment. It's what sets us apart." James took a slow breath, holding Richard's gaze. And you think treating potential customers with disrespect is part of that experience? Richard shrugged, a smug look crossing his face. I think I know my customers better than you do, he said. It's my job to protect the integrity of the store. For a moment, James didn't respond. He glanced around the store, taking in the meticulously arranged displays, the opulent decor, and the other customers who had begun to notice the tension between him and Richard. Finally, he turned back to Richard, his voice cold but controlled. Thank you for your time, he said. I'll be sure to let the right people know how you run this store. Richard's eyes flickered with a hint of confusion, but James didn't elaborate. Turning on his heel, he walked toward the exit, the weight of the interaction settling heavily on him. Stepping out into the cool air of the city, James paused, his mind already churning over what had just transpired. This wasn't just a matter of poor customer service. It was a reflection of a deeper problem, a culture of exclusion and bias that directly contradicted the values his brand claimed to uphold. James had built his company on the principles of inclusivity, respect, and accessibility, and Richard's behavior undermined everything the brand was supposed to represent. As he stood on the sidewalk, blending back into the stream of passers-by, James knew he couldn't let the matter rest. He had come to observe, to see the reality of his stores without the influence of his title or status, and now he had. What he had witnessed was disappointing, but it also clarified what needed to be done. Taking a deep breath, James turned back toward the store. This time, he wasn't just a customer. He was the owner, and changes needed to happen, starting with Richard Cole. The problem wasn't just an individual, it was the attitude and culture he allowed to fester. James was determined to ensure his stores embodied the values he believed in, and he knew that meant taking swift and decisive action. This was no longer just a casual visit, it was a turning point. The following day, James Carter arranged for Richard Cole to meet him at the company headquarters under the pretense of a routine performance review. Richard arrived punctually, his usual air of confidence evident in his sharp suit and brisk stride. He seemed unaware of the true purpose of the meeting, expecting a discussion about sales and store performance. James sat at the head of the conference table, his demeanor calm but firm. As Richard entered, James gestured for him to take a seat. "Thank you for coming, Richard," he began. "I wanted to talk about the performance of your store and the direction of the brand." Richard nodded, smiling slightly. "Of course, Mr. Carter. Sales have been strong, and the store is maintaining its luxury image. I'm confident we're meeting the company's expectations." James leaned forward, his tone sharpening. "Sales are not the issue here, Richard. The issue is how you treat people." He paused, watching Richard's confident expression falter slightly. "I visited your store yesterday. You didn't recognize me because I came as a regular customer, dressed casually." Realization dawned on Richard's face, his expression quickly shifting to panic. He opened his mouth to respond, but James continued. "What I experienced in your store was unacceptable. Your dismissive and condescending attitude, your assumption that I couldn't afford the items, and your unwillingness to treat me with respect, none of that aligns with the values this brand stands for." Richard stammered, "Mr. Carter, I had no idea." "That's precisely the problem," James interrupted. "You didn't know who I was, and you didn't care. You judged me based on my appearance. This brand is about more than luxury. It's about respect, inclusivity, and creating a welcoming environment for everyone. Your behavior undermines everything we represent." Richard's confidence crumbled as James concluded. "Your actions leave me no choice but to terminate your role. This company's integrity is non-negotiable." As James Carter concluded his pointed remarks about Richard Cole's behavior, Richard's confident demeanor evaporated. Realizing the gravity of the situation, he leaned forward, his voice laced with desperation. "Mr. Carter, please," he began. "I didn't mean any harm. I can change. I'll implement training, treat customers differently, whatever it takes." James's expression remained impassive, though his voice carried the weight of finality. "Richard, this isn't just about a single incident or a mistake. It's about a pattern of behavior, a mindset you've demonstrated for years. What I experienced in your store yesterday wasn't an oversight. It was the result of deeply ingrained attitudes that have no place in this company." Richard attempted to interject, but James raised a hand to stop him. "Your attitude directly contradicts the values this brand stands for: respect, inclusivity, and ensuring every customer feels valued. What you didn't just harm one person, it risks damaging the reputation of the entire company. Customers trust us to offer more than luxury. They trust us to treat them with dignity." Richard's face was a mask of regret, his voice trembling as he tried again. "I'll do better, Mr. Carter. I promise. Just give me another chance." James shook his head, his tone resolute. "It's too late for that, Richard. The damage has been done, and I can't risk the integrity of this brand by allowing this to continue. You've shown me what kind of leader you are, and it's not the kind we need." For a moment there was silence in the room, heavy with the weight of James's decision. Richard finally stood, his posture slumped and his face pale. "Thank you for your time, Mr. Carter," he said quietly, his voice hollow. As Richard walked out of the room, his footsteps echoing in the hallway, James felt no regret. This decision wasn't just about holding one person accountable. It was about protecting the core values of the company and ensuring that every store under his name reflected those principles. After Richard Cole's dismissal, James Carter turned his attention to finding the right leader for the store, someone who would embody the values of respect, inclusivity, and integrity that defined the brand. One name came to mind immediately: Anna, the young sales associate who had shown genuine kindness and professionalism during his undercover visit. Unlike Richard, Anna had treated James as a valued customer, not judging him by his casual appearance, but engaging with sincerity and respect. James invited Anna to a meeting at the company headquarters the next day. Nervous but hopeful, Anna entered the conference room, her hands clasping and unclasping nervously. James greeted her with a warm smile, gesturing for her to sit. "Thank you for coming, Anna," he began. "I know the past few days have been challenging, but I wanted to talk to you about the future of the Fifth Avenue store." Anna nodded, her voice steady but soft. "Thank you, Mr. Carter. I've always believed in what this brand stands for: treating everyone with respect, no matter who they are. It's been hard, seeing some of the things that have happened, but I'm committed to doing my best." James smiled, appreciating her sincerity. "That's exactly why I've asked you here," he said. "Your actions during my visit showed me what leadership in this company should look like. You treated me, someone you thought was just another customer, with kindness and professionalism. That's what I want this store to represent." Anna's eyes widened in surprise. "Mr. Carter, are you saying—" "I'm offering you the position of store manager," James said firmly. "You've proven that you have the values, the attitude, and the vision to lead this team. I trust you to rebuild the store's culture and ensure it reflects the principles we stand for. This isn't just about managing sales, it's about creating a space where every customer feels welcome and respected." Overwhelmed, Anna took a deep breath, her hands trembling slightly. "Thank you, Mr. Carter. I don't know what to say. I never expected this." James leaned forward, his tone encouraging. "Say that you'll accept the challenge and help me ensure that this store becomes a model for what our brand truly stands for. You've already demonstrated that you believe in these values. Now I'm asking you to lead by example." Anna nodded, her determination clear despite the emotion in her voice. "Yes, Mr. Carter, I'll do everything I can to make the store a place where everyone feels valued. I've always believed in treating people with respect, and I'll make sure our team does the same." James stood, extending his hand. "I know you will. Thank you for stepping up, Anna. I'll be checking in regularly, but I trust you to handle the day-to-day operations. Together, we'll ensure this store represents the very best of what our brand stands for." As Anna shook his hand, a sense of purpose filled the room. James felt confident in his decision. With Anna at the helm, He was certain the store could move forward, embracing a culture of inclusivity and respect that would resonate with both staff and customers alike. Following the transition in leadership at the Fifth Avenue store, James Carter wasted no time initiating a cultural shift to align the store with the values his brand represented: inclusivity, respect, and exceptional customer engagement. He understood that true change required more than replacing a manager. It needed a collective commitment from the entire team and a clear strategy to move forward. James scheduled a staff meeting to address the recent changes and to outline the new direction for the store. As employees gathered in the spacious back room, there was an air of tension mixed with curiosity. Many were unsure about how the recent leadership shakeup would affect them. Sensing their unease, James began the meeting with a reassuring tone. "First, let me thank all of you for your hard work and dedication," he said, making eye contact with as many team members as possible. "I know the past few days have been uncertain, but I want to make something clear. Your jobs are secure. We value each of you and the effort you put into making this store a success." The room visibly relaxed at his words, and James continued, "That said, we will be making some changes to ensure this store not only meets but exceeds the standards we set as a company. These changes are about more than just sales. They're about creating a space where every customer feels valued, respected, and welcome, regardless of their background or appearance." James then introduced the cornerstone of the cultural shift, a comprehensive training program for all staff members. The training would focus on inclusivity, respect, and enhancing customer engagement. Topics would include unconscious bias, effective communication, and strategies for delivering exceptional service to all customers. "This training isn't about pointing fingers or placing blame," James explained. "It's about equipping each of you with the tools and understanding needed to create a positive environment for our customers and for each other. Inclusivity and respect are not just ideals, they're the foundation of what this brand stands for, and they must guide every interaction in this store." To ensure accountability and open communication, James introduced a new reporting system. Employees were encouraged to speak up if they witnessed any behavior that didn't align with the company's values. "If you see something that concerns you, you can report it directly to Anna, our new store manager, or come to me personally," he said. "My door's always open. We take these issues seriously, and I want each of you to feel safe and supported in speaking up." As the meeting progressed, Anna stepped forward to address the team. Standing tall, she exuded a quiet confidence that reassured her colleagues. "I know change can be challenging," she said, "but I want you to know that I'm here to support you. We're building a culture of respect and inclusion, and it starts with us working together as a team. If you ever have questions or concerns, please don't hesitate to come to me. This is a fresh start, and I'm excited to lead us into this new chapter." James could sense a shift in the room. The initial tension was easing, replaced by a sense of optimism and solidarity. The staff began to ask questions, seeking clarification on the new policies and expressing their support for the changes. One employee raised a hand and asked, "What happens if we see behavior that doesn't align with these values? Will there be consequences?" "Absolutely," James replied. "We're creating a culture of accountability, which means everyone, at every level, is responsible for upholding these values. If inappropriate behavior is reported and verified, there will be consequences. This isn't about punishment, it's about ensuring our store remains a welcoming and inclusive space for everyone." The meeting concluded with James expressing his confidence in the team. "I believe in each of you," he said. "Together, we can make this store a model of what our brand stands for. Let's work to create a space where everyone, customers and employees alike, feels respected and valued." As the team dispersed, the atmosphere was noticeably lighter. The staff seemed motivated by the clarity of the new vision and the support being offered. James felt a sense of relief and satisfaction. While he knew that change wouldn't happen overnight, he was confident that these initial steps would lay the foundation for a stronger, more inclusive store culture, one that truly reflected the values of his brand. In the weeks following the leadership changes and implementation of new policies, James Carter began to see a noticeable transformation in the culture of the Fifth Avenue store. What had once been an environment tinged with exclusivity and judgment was now evolving into a space where employees and customers alike felt valued and respected. The changes were subtle at first: small acts of kindness, improved communication, and a more welcoming atmosphere. But their impact quickly became evident. Anna, the newly appointed store manager, took her role seriously and led the team with a calm yet determined approach. Her dedication to the brand's core values, respect, inclusivity, and customer connection, was evident in every decision she made. Under her leadership, the staff became more cohesive, united by a shared commitment to creating a positive experience for all customers. Employees began engaging with customers in more meaningful ways, no longer making assumptions based on appearance or background. Sales associates greeted every visitor warmly, offering genuine assistance without prejudice. Customers, in turn, responded to the improved environment, frequently leaving positive feedback about the professionalism and kindness of the staff. James made unannounced visits to the store to observe these changes firsthand. He was pleased to see employees collaborating, supporting each other, and embracing the training they had received. The atmosphere was lighter, and even during busy moments, there was a sense of calm and cooperation among the team. Customers browsed comfortably, their interactions with staff marked by mutual respect and ease. During one visit, James spoke with a customer who had noticed the difference. "It's not just about the luxury items anymore," the customer said. "This store feels welcoming, like everyone belongs here." The comment reinforced James's belief that the steps taken to rebuild the store's culture were having the desired effect. Anna's leadership played a pivotal role in this transformation. She consistently modeled the values the company stood for, addressing challenges with fairness and fostering an open dialogue with her team. Her ability to inspire trust and respect among her staff ensured that the cultural shift wasn't just a temporary change, but a sustainable one. As James observed the store's progress, he felt a deep sense of pride and reassurance. The Fifth Avenue location was becoming more than just a place of luxury. It was now a reflection of the principles he had built his brand upon, a space where everyone, regardless of their appearance or background, felt connected and valued. Several weeks after his dismissal, Richard Cole unexpectedly returned to the Fifth Avenue store, his demeanor uncharacteristically subdued. His once confident stride was slower, his tailored suit less crisp. Spotting James Carter in the store during one of his visits, Richard hesitated for a moment before approaching. "Mr. Carter," Richard began, his voice low and tinged with regret, "I know I'm the last person you want to see, but I felt I needed to come here and apologize for everything. I made a mistake, and I let my biases cloud my judgment. I realize now how much damage I caused to the brand and to the trust you place in your leaders. I'm truly sorry." James regarded him with a steady gaze, his expression calm but resolute. He allowed Richard to finish before responding. "Richard, I appreciate that you've taken the time to reflect and offer an apology," James said, his voice firm but not unkind. "However, this isn't just about a single mistake. What I saw during my visit wasn't an isolated incident. It was a reflection of deep-seated attitudes that directly contradict the values of this company." Richard looked down, his shoulders slumping. "I understand that," he said quietly. "But I've changed. I've learned from this experience, and I want to make things right." James shook his head slowly. "Richard, this brand isn't just about selling luxury. It's about creating an environment where every customer is treated with respect and dignity. Your actions, unfortunately, showed me that you weren't willing to uphold those principles. This isn't just about an apology or a promise to do better. It's about ensuring the integrity of the brand, and that requires leaders who reflect those values every day." The weight of James's words hung heavily between them. Richard nodded reluctantly, his voice barely above a whisper. "Thank you for hearing me out," he said, turning to leave. As Richard walked out of the store, James felt a sense of closure. His decision to let Richard go had been difficult but necessary. Maintaining the integrity of his company and the values it stood for was his highest priority, and he remained steadfast in his commitment to fostering a culture of respect, inclusion, and excellence. As James Carter watched the positive transformation at the Fifth Avenue store, a sense of resolution settled over him. The challenges of recent weeks had been significant, but the changes he'd implemented were beginning to bear fruit. Under Anna's capable leadership, the store was thriving not just as a hub for luxury retail, but as a space that truly reflected the values he had built his brand upon. Anna's commitment to fostering an environment of respect and inclusivity was evident in every interaction, both with the team and with customers. She had embraced her role as manager with humility and determination, leading by example and inspiring her staff to do the same. The once tense atmosphere in the store had been replaced by a sense of unity and purpose, and customers were noticing the difference. During one visit, James took a moment to speak to the staff. "This brand has always been about more than luxury," he said. "It's about treating every person who walks through these doors with dignity, respect, and kindness. That's what makes us stand apart, and that's the vision we'll continue to uphold." As James left the store that day, he felt confident in the direction it was heading. With Sarah at the helm and a renewed commitment to the brand's core values, he knew the store's future was bright. It was now more than a business. It was a model of integrity and inclusivity, built to stand the test of time.